in front of you. It's just a freezer packed with Nutrisystem from Men.
The science-backed weight loss program that helps you burn fat every day and keep losing until you reach your goal.
Good morning, everybody. Haven't seen you in a couple of months and wanted to talk about a few things this morning before we move into a little presentation that I have. One thing that I hadn't talked much about in our previous talks was the permitting issue when you're doing what I would not, where permits are required when you do major renovations and when you're changing structural things in the house, like taking walls down or opening up rooms, or when you're doing changes like that, you're going to need a building permit. You're also going to need permits on some occasions on if you're adding new plumbing. So you might need a plumbing permit, you might need a mechanical permit for HVAC and so forth, and then you would also you have the ability to get an electrical permit. The electrical permits, the plumbing permits, and the HVAC permits, those are pretty easy. Those are something that can be submitted and usually get turned around in 24 or 48 hours. But what we're finding, and what I'm talking about today, I'm referencing Fairfax County only because my last 7 or 8 major projects have all been in Fairfax County. But the permitting situation is becoming almost catastrophic as far as timing, and it's so crucial that when you're doing a flip that you factor in timing for permits. And let's say that you acquire a property and then you've got to worry about, okay, what's my entry date and what's my exit date? And you can control a little bit about your construction on how long it's going to take you, and then you can have some control on how long it's going to take to sell and close. And I normally figure that in a normal project that at most it's going to take me 90 days to do. At most it should take 30 days to sell and 30 days to close. So you've got a 5-month window on a big project. The unknown is the permitting. And on the last 3 renovations I've done, the permitting is taking anywhere from 3 to 7 months. Well, this is catastrophic if you've got normal carrying costs associating with flipping properties at high interest rates. My last one was the quickest one that I don't have a permit in hand, but I have an approval in hand. And just from having an approval in hand to actually printing the permit, I'm 11 days in from that point. And I'm almost 11 weeks in on the total acquiring of the permit at this point. So this is something that you have to deal with if you're looking at something that's going to be what I would consider, where you're going to need a building permit. I've used multiple permit expediters that charge anywhere from $600 to $1,000 to expedite a permit, and then they charge an add-on fee every time they have to resubmit. I think on this last one I had 7 resubmissions, and it's very, very hard to get something through with the way that the county is working right now, because before you could go in person and solve most issues rather quickly, but now everything is online, and they'll have an objection that you go back and forth on various emails and various tries to accommodate their question, and then as soon as they do that, they have another one for you. So they're not giving you the multiple issues at the same time. They're giving them to you one by one. So it's a very, very time-consuming process that's adding a lot of cost to doing a flip. And so I just thought I would mention that. There doesn't seem to be any shortcut, because all of the people I'm talking to in the industry are experiencing the same thing. Well, in the past, we have talked quite a bit about reviewing different flips that I have done and that that we have done as a team, and I want to talk today about something a little bit different that would play in real well within the realtor community, and that would be renovations on a property in order to sell it. Now this would be a little bit different because if I'm doing a property that I own, then I can control what is done and what is not done. When you're working through an agent, or if an agent comes to me and says, "Hey, can you get this property in shape to sell?" Well, the first thing you have to deal with is what is the budget that the seller can work with, and so there has to be choices made as to what is going to make the most difference in a property that is going to increase the value of the property. For example, if you spend $20,000 on a property, you darn well better be able to sell it for a whole lot more than $20,000 than you could have sold it for in an as-is condition. I'm just finishing one right now that I don't have pictures on, but I'm actually at my final trades are finishing today. I took a 1970 Reston townhouse and completely redid it for a client, and the client just said, "Do your thing. I've seen what you do, and what do you think it's going to cost?" And I said, "Well, if I gut this and start over on 3 levels, I think I can bring it in at $50,000, and I think will dramatically increase the price of the property." Well, my final bill I just prepared is $52,900, so I brought it in almost at $50,000. But if I'd have listed this property in as-is condition, in a best case scenario, I would have gotten somewhere between $290,000 and $315,000. Having spent $50,000 on this property, we're listing it at $399,000. I've had a couple of agents take a look at it that have sold in that area recently, and they're saying you're going to go way over $400,000 with this property. So the turnaround for that seller is going to be monumental, in that spending $50,000 and probably selling it for $85,000 to $110,000 more than what it would have done without doing this. So this is the kind of thing we're looking to do. The one I'm going to show you today is one we did in Centerville. Also timing. So today is day 29 on that total renovation. So we have completely renovated a 3-level townhouse. Everything being done: new kitchens, new baths, new fixtures, new doors, all new flooring, all new paint, landscaping front and back. I mean, everything was done on this townhouse, and we will have completed it in 29 days. Time is important, obviously, in this capacity as well. Now, the one I'm going to show you is a little bit different because this was a much bigger house. It was 3,500 square feet plus a finished basement, and I was given a budget of $20,000. So there was not nearly what I would do if it were my property, but we accomplished. I went back to them and said, I just can't get this to the point where you're going to sell for very much more money than what we're putting into it unless I can go a little bit higher than that. So our final job came in at $29,000 on this property, and it sold for $65,000 more than what the anticipated sale would have been if it had not done this work. But I'm going to walk you through this and show you some things. So in this bathroom, I didn't have the ability to change the tile or change the vanities, but what I did was change the top, and so I added a granite top to the 60-foot vanity. We painted the vanity and changed the knobs. We took down the big sheet mirror and put up 2 designer mirrors. We changed the faucets and we changed the light fixture. But we got a dramatic different look for not a whole lot of money spent on this bathroom. Here's another picture there. On the tub, we didn't want to rip the tile out, so we were basically able to switch the hardware out on the tub, which made it a whole lot, you know, you can see the difference between the, you know, the 30-year-old fashioned plastic handles to something that's a whole lot more updated. This is a situation without taking the tile down to get to the diverter. You have to change brand for brand, but the Moen is, when you see these plastic handles, it's usually Moen. It could be Delta, but you have an opportunity to change that out again, and that change out there was maybe $129 faucet and handles, but it just made a dramatic difference in the presentation of the bathroom. When we got to the flooring, we had 4 or 5 chipped tiles, which we were able to pull out without making any harm to the floor, other than the full tiles we were removing. But in doing a job like this, it becomes quite difficult because you're not going to match that floor tile. So what we did is we pulled floor. There was a little closet within the bathroom, and we pulled the back row of that closet out, and were able to salvage the 4 tiles we needed to be able to make that floor look like the entire floor was still the original floor. When you see the picture there that shows the after picture on what we did. So again, the cost was negligible, and yet we made a dramatic difference instead of walking in and seeing a bunch of cracked tiles. And then they had an old-fashioned toilet paper holder that was all rusted out and stuck in the wall, so we just basically pulled that out, patched the drywall, and then just put a modern flusher and a modern toilet paper holder and a new toilet seat. So we're in that bathroom and out, you know, maybe for $100 in there, including labor, maybe $125, and we've now dramatically changed that. That entire bathroom was also painted. The shower, we changed the shower diverter, and you couldn't pull that shower door off without having major complications, but we cleaned it very nicely, and we regrouted the tile in the shower, and it looked like it had completely been redone. So that was how that bathroom was put back together. This is going to the basement. Changed the carpet in the basement, but wait till you see when we get down there. It was, the owner was real proud that when he bought this house, he got the builder to put a brick finish on the inside of his house. And it just, you know, the interior brick walls, and then he had painted those painted the bricks and then painted the mortar in, and it was just hideous. And then there was a series of these dome lights that just, when you turn the corner there's 8 more of them, and so you had these dome lights that were just huge, and it just looked ridiculous. And the wall panel was hanging all over the place, the electrical panel. So as you'll see, and there was no railing to the staircase. So we added a railing to the staircase. We painted those brick walls white. We rebuilt the cabinet for the electrical panel, and then we put recessed lighting in that entire basement, and we really, really changed what was a horrendous looking basement into something that looked pretty darn nice. Here's another angle there of that painted brick wall, and and then what it looked like after we painted that wall. Now, garages in unfinished areas. I mean, the unfinished area on the left there. I mean, all this was painting the floor for like $175 and painting the walls, and then just clearing out all the junk. And a buyer walking into that unfinished basement is going to look here and say, I don't have anything to do, and this is not a mess. I mean, what it looked like before, that would have been a disaster to try to sell that room. And here's one more picture from another angle of the difference of what we did. And again, there was not a ton of money spent there, but we made that basement completely transform. I don't even know how they ended up getting anywhere past code and not having a railing coming down that, somebody, I mean, it was just a trap for small kids coming down the first turn and going right over the edge. But again, that's one final look, I think, at the basement. Nope. Oh, all of the ductwork was exposed, and so we had to refinish the ductwork and put a new drop ceiling in drywall ceiling in that ductwork. So then we went outside, and they had this big, gorgeous patio sitting in a very nice setting, but this enormous patio was almost black. It was just so disgustingly filthy. And we were able to transform that with a real strong power washer and making it almost look like new brick. But I want to point out something little to you. They just had a lounge chair just sort of plopped out there on that deck. Just the positioning of that lounge chair and taking a table that was sitting by itself at the other end of the patio, just putting that together, look at the difference of the presentation. It's like night and day. There it is from another angle. When we get to this, and then the back was just a little bit of mulch, and then cutting in a mulch bed and getting rid of the junk that was, the junk shelving that was on the deck. And again, hardly any money at all, but makes a dramatic difference. But this is what I thought was amazing, the side of the house. Look what cleanup does to that. I mean, it doesn't even look like the same property. And then there's the side by the fence there. You couldn't even see the fence. And so that was cleaned out and mulched. And again, that's the other side of the sidewalk before and after. I mean, who would want to walk back and say, this is what my yard looks like? And then from the front, completely overgrown, transformed into something that was very presentable. All of that clear out, I paid a laborer to come in and do that, $225, and he cleared out that entire yard. Look at that. Again, doesn't look like the same property, and that walkway looks brand new. And then the front, there were trees that were growing out in front of the house, so we trimmed those trees dramatically and brought them, so that they're not covering the front of the house, and then just landscape that front corner. There, the front bed looked, like it hadn't been touched. We trimmed that bush and just cleaned up and mulched. And the other side, this tree was just overtaking everything, and we trimmed that magnolia tree. It's a beautiful tree, and we trimmed it up and opened it up and then put a nice mulch bed there. You bring a landscaper in to do this job we did, there would have been a $7,500 job, and we did it for maybe $500. And then this tree, the left picture showed all that you had a hard time seeing the house even without leaves. And then when here we had it in full growth, and now you can totally see the house. And we cleaned that tree up quite nicely too. And just a little thing like the presentation where the mailbox is. I mean, very minor, that was maybe $25 of work. They had hideous shutters on in a terrible green. We just removed the shutters. Had a green door and a green storm door, and we just removed. I think houses show storm doors might be functional, but I can't stand them in a presentation of a house. And just look at the presentation of the front door without the storm door and then painted black as opposed to a green door and a green screen door. A whole lot different presentation. So that was that house. So we do that. We do that for other agents. We'll come in and make your house really, really pop and completely. I like to say that what we spend, we can get 2 times that. That's our goal. So if we spend 20, we increase it 40. If we spend 50, we increase it 100. And so we're this is work that we will also do. I think that's all I have on that one. Got a small audience here. Can questions come in from?
Online?
No. Okay. Any thoughts or questions from the live audience? Nothing really?
Well, I came a little bit late, so is this your company?
Yeah. I'm Greg Holmes. And so I run a company called Holmes Homes, and we do flips. I'll go into a little bit more. The other people, have you seen me before?
I have. So basically, is this the introduction class today? I mean to say, what does the investment club does?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
What does the investment club does basically?
Well, the investment club is basically, they've been bringing me in on a monthly basis to discuss house flipping for the most part. And so today I decided to show you that as an agent and you're going to list a property and it's not in very good shape, there's a way for everybody to win by renovating that property to the point where whatever you spend, you ought to be able to double that in the sale of the property. So that's what we were talking about today. But in flipping, I've flipped between 250 and 275 houses. And so by flipping, it is that I will buy a distressed property, and I will take that distressed property and make it into something spectacular. Now, I've been working in Falls Church for the most part over the last 2 years, and I've been buying, particularly, I'm enamored with the 1930, 1940 Cape Cods. And those properties are usually close 750 to 800 square feet on the main level. And then you'll have an upstairs, but with it being a Cape Cod, you've got whereas if you've got a box that's 33 by 24, 33 wide, 24 deep, when you get upstairs, the walls on a Cape Cod come in. And so therefore, you only have a 10-foot building space in that 24 feet. So you have 24 feet front to back, but your walls come in 7 feet from the front and 7 feet from the back. So you're left with 10 feet of building space. And then that 10 feet of building space will only have full height because the walls are coming like this and the ceilings are following the roof line. So therefore, your ceiling at the middle of that upper level, you might have 18 inches or 2 feet where it's full height, and then everything else you start walking to the right or the left, and you're going to walk into walls. So what I've been doing is I've been stripping the roof off. I've been stripping the second floor off of these Cape Cods. And then if I just go straight up, in a 33 by 24 box, I've now added 14 by 33 in square footage. And now, whereas before you could only get one long, narrow room upstairs, by expanding that box to the full footprint of the downstairs, which is 33 by 24, I can now, upstairs with normal ceilings, I can now get 3 bedrooms, a laundry room, and 2 bathrooms. So I'm taking what would be a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house and turning that into a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, 2.5-bath house. Now, I did that on 3 of them. The next 3 I said, you know what, I'm going to put an addition on the back. So I then took what was 790 square feet, added another 790 feet on top of it, and then in the back, I did a 39 by 20 one-story addition, but whereas the front looks like this, the back would be the other way, so you'd have a reverse A, and therefore on that one-story addition that came off the back, I'd end up with 12-foot ceilings at the peak and 9-foot ceilings in the entire addition. So in the back, I would take what you would normally find on the back of a colonial, such as this house, where you'd have a kitchen, a breakfast room, and a living room, and I throw that on the back of the house with soaring ceilings. And now I've taken 790 square feet and moved it to 2,300 square feet. And to show you that what's happening on those type of flips, I've been acquiring those houses. Well, the first couple I was acquiring those beat up Cape Cods, $350 to $425, and then coming out the backside and selling them. The last one I just sold for $956,000. Now it's costing me $250 to do all that, but I've now turned $250,000 profit out of doing these properties. I have 4 that I've finished 2 this year. I have 2 more under contract, but I'm in that never-ending. One of them, I'm 8 months waiting on a permit, which I think I have. I have the signed off plans, but I don't have the actual permit to put in the window to start knocking stuff down. But so therefore, then I'm probably another 2 months behind on my permit on the other one. So that's kind of what I do. So a lot of people approach me and they go, well, can you do what you just did in one of your flips for my house? And that's why I got into the renovation business as well. But as all of you are realtors, obviously, right? I mean, you come across opportunities, you can bring those opportunities to me, and you can then participate in a flip. Or if you have a listing that's not that that you control, and you need it renovated so that it can sell for more money, then we can also do that.
So, I mean, basically you're an investor as well to buy property. So you do investment, right? You buy property.
Yeah, I buy property. So if you come across a property that says, hey, this thing could be really special if it was renovated, then that's something you would want to bring to me. Now, if you want to learn how to do that business, then you can participate in it. I mean, I've had like 6 or 7 people that have brought me a property, and then they participated in the first one with me, and then they learned enough in one flip that they could go start the flipping business on their own.
Okay. So obviously I haven't done this flipping or renovation. When we list, like you said, maybe some major or minor, we call somebody, they fix it and then list it. So
So there's two different ways you could use my company. 3 different ways. One way, I can fix your listing up so that it will not only will it sell for more money, but it will sell immediately. Second of all, you can find a property on somewhere out there and say, hey, you may want to look at this property. So for example, if you find a property, and it's rare to find them on the market. They usually are off-market properties. But if you find something on the market, then I'll allow you to be my selling agent. In other words, you bring it to me, you're the agent on that property. So I would work with you in that capacity as well.
so you have any specific areas that you work?
I like to work in Fairfax County, but I'll work in Loudoun, I'll work in Prince William. I don't want to do Arlington or Alexandria.
Is there any property that you would not touch? I mean, I have done flip before, renovation, everything. Sometimes I look at a property and I think it's a good investment, but I'm not like that experience where I'm like, okay, this needs a lot of work. Is there anything that you would say, oh, it's not worth it?
Well, usually it doesn't have to do with the property, it has to do with the location and what's around it. So there's certain things you can overcome and there's certain things you can't overcome. And so it would be, in other words, I would be somebody that I could evaluate a property for you and say, does this property make sense? Are you going to be able to push it to the price point that we need? I was told in Falls Church that I could never break 700,000 on these houses. And I went from 700 to 746 to 790 to 830 to 890 to 956. So I'm 250,000 above what I was told I could never get in Falls Church. And so I'm not worried about, my house is always, in other words, you can't comp my houses because my houses will outperform comps every time. And then my biggest problem is making them appraise. I mean, on the last one that I did, I got 956 for the same stuff that I'd been selling at 700 2 years ago. And yeah, but it didn't appraise. It didn't appraise at 956. Now, I'm not going to panic over that because I've had 2 low appraisals and 250 flips. I can normally work the appraisal through what I need to be done. But it's not easy. It's a big part of what we do.
So, let's say before I put a contract, can I use your service to kind of say, kind of give me an idea, okay, this is how much
Yes.
we have?
Yes, without question. Without question.
Do you have a card?
I do. I guess we're pretty well, we're okay to wrap up online. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next month, hopefully.